I'm here standing with my colleagues because it's very clear that the Republicans will break every norm, every rule to get this person on the Supreme Court, where he will be there with a cloud. He will weaken the court, and this has got to stop. So I walked out. I'm not going to participate in this charade anymore.
You know, one of our colleagues talked about this being a sham. This is a sham, what's going on in there right now. Democrats are not being heard. They're pushing through this process, and frankly, the statements yesterday were about bullying fellow senators, and from top to bottom, this has been about bullies. Listen to the people. All we have asked for is that there be an FBI investigation. Dr. Ford came in and she poured out her heart. She cooperated with the process. She gave the process dignity and respect. The least we could do is give her the dignity and respect of having a process that has credibility. We are talking about putting somebody on the United States Supreme Court for a lifetime. For the sake of our democracy and the integrity of our democracy, you would think that members of the United States Senate would say, wait a minute, there's enough here to push pause. Let's reflect on what we're about to do. This is not a statement about the best of who we are in terms of a system that is about to be and is supposed to be about justice.
Senator Harris, what should happen now?
I am here to join my colleagues in objecting to the sham process that is going forward right now, right next to us in the Judiciary Committee. This adds to the sequence of sham process that we have seen. I think it is unprecedented in the history of background investigations for new and credible allegations to come forward and the background investigation not be reopened. All three credible allegations have received zero investigation by the FBI. That is not right. The partisanship that was on display in yesterday's hearing was not right. It was not right from my colleagues. It was particularly not right from the nominee. I have never seen such a display of vengeful, partisan, conspiracy theory behavior from somebody seeking any judgeship, let alone a seat on the Supreme Court. And now we have this sham process in the committee, which raises the question, why? Why are they so desperate to get this person on the court without a proper investigation? Thanks.
What we're watching is a betrayal. It is first and foremost a betrayal of the United States Senate's constitutional duty to advise and consent. That duty can be done only if we uncover all of the facts, good or bad, about a nominee. There has been no adequate FBI investigation. There has been no sufficient fact-finding. There has been barely a process of considering the people who ought to be heard. Yesterday, we heard from a powerfully credible sexual assault survivor. This process betrays all the hollow, hypocritical respect that our Republican colleagues said they were going to give her. Ramming through this nomination without hearing from Mark Judge and other relevant witnesses and without any investigation is a betrayal of our promise to those sexual assault victims that they would be heard respectively. And this process is being watched. All of America is watching the United States Senate today, and they should be deeply disappointed, embarrassed, ashamed of supposedly the world's greatest deliberative body sinking to a low that denies sexual assault survivors the right to be heard. There are two that should be called as witnesses. There are other witnesses like Mark Judge who need to be called about this nominee, and there needs to be an FBI investigation. Trained professionals, not the staff of the Judiciary Committee. Trained professionals, not a conclusory six-sentence statement. not even under oath, from the attorney for Mark Judd. The real facts, the real story here has not been told. And make no mistake, the truth will come out about Brett Kavanaugh. It's only a matter of time. The truth will come out.
Republicans are forging ahead. What is the Democratic plan for the next 24 hours?
The Democratic plan is really a plan that is to reach out to all Americans because people are watching. And I want to acknowledge the presence of all of our friends from the U.S. House of Representatives who are standing with us. The American people have got to rise up and recognize this railroad job for what it is. I have no words left. You know that we've all been very rational and reasonable. We're always being told, why don't you, observe decorum? Are you kidding me?
It can
What
be
you're
summarized
seeing there
in
is-
no
okay, summarize
rules,
it.
no rules, no norms,
Yeah.
no respect.
Exactly.
And what we're going to do is make our case to the American people because
Exactly.
they will rise up. The American people are on our side. That's what we're going to do in the next 24 hours.
Will you actually be at the vote at 1:30? Will you be in the room when they vote at 1:30?
I'll be on the floor of the Senate giving the statement that I would have made regarding what a sham this is and how terrible it is to put this person on the Supreme Court with this kind of clout. Don't you think it's bad enough that we have one person on the Supreme Court who got there under this kind of clout? We're going to put another person there without all of the kind of investigation that at the minimum should occur?
So your seats will be empty at 1:30.
Haven't decided yet. This is a
We're going to
moving
do
thing. We're
our
gonna do our best.
constitutional duty
Yeah.
in the best way we know.
Senators,
But
Exactly.
let's be clear about something. This is part of the point about them ramming it down. We have a democracy. There should not be tyranny of the majority. We have a democracy. And there has not been a fair process in place from the beginning on this. It should not be about raw power
Exactly.
influencing the outcome of a decision that is about not only a statement about what we hold as being precious and important about our system of justice, but who will sit for a lifetime on the United States Supreme Court. And this has been about raw power. You're seeing that in display in this hearing this morning. You've been seeing it from the process from the beginning. Failure to give us the documents. Failure to interview all the witnesses. Failure to give us the ability to do a sufficient background check to know who this individual is. It's been pushing and ramming this thing through because they have the power as opposed to the integrity to say, let the American people know what's about to happen. Have transparency in the system. Have integrity in the system. This is a failure of this body to do what it has always said it's about, which is be deliberative.
How much coordination and discussion did you all do in advance of yesterday's hearing, and why was there so much focus on the FBI investigation that you were calling for rather than the substance of Judge Kavanaugh's past?
You don't think an FBI investigation is at the core of all of this? Yeah, right. What have we been saying if not that? We need a minimum investigation. And by the way, we did not coordinate walking out. We feel this in here.
That's right.
Okay, and that's what all the people out there are going to watch it.
The line of questioning at yesterday's hearing, did you all discuss the questions that you would ask Judge Kavanaugh?
What does that matter, really?
We have been calling for an FBI investigation from the time that we first learned about this letter from Dr. Blasey Ford. We have been calling for hearings and additional witnesses from day one. There's nothing novel, and there's no need to coordinate because this point is absolutely obvious to everyone, and it's obvious to the American people that the Senate is ramming through this nomination. The Republican leadership is jamming Judge Kavanaugh through this process without knowing the facts. But eventually the facts will come out, and there will be additional investigations, and the truth will out.
And you have to be clear also that the smoke screens that we're seeing. So they put a prosecutor in, right? The person who's from the prosecutor's office in Maricopa County to give the suggestion that this was a hearing that was about getting into evidence and facts. Well, she said herself, and her protocol says, it's very clear, you don't do this without an investigation. The FBI is an agency of sworn, trained law enforcement officers. They have the ability to do an investigation. So understand the misleading suggestion yesterday that this hearing was sufficient. If this hearing were sufficient, we would not, as a matter of course, have the FBI do a background investigation every time we have a nominee to that court. But yet, when it came to these allegations, they wanted to cut off that process. And you have to ask why. You have to ask that.
You say they have the power, so practically what can you do now?
What we're doing right now.
We're gonna use every tool available.
Like what? Can you be specific?
There are still some senators who have not indicated how they're going to vote. I hope they're searching their souls and will do the right thing. And in fact, there are groups now that have come out who originally supported Judge
The
Kavanaugh,
ABA has
who are coming out.
asked for this nomination put on hold. The gold standard, as one of our colleagues referred to them yesterday, has now said the nomination should be put on hold. America is watching as never before.
So if this goes to the floor, you think what could happen? Are you confident that it
Well, the first question is when and whether they will bring it to the floor. They are going to have to assess whether they have the votes, and we're going to be reaching out to our Republican colleagues who are still undecided.
Senators was his statement yesterday, his opening statement, too partisan to be a Supreme Court justice?
Oh, I'd say so. I never heard a Supreme Court justice come out and say that there is a vast, basically, left-wing conspiracy to undermine his nomination. Whoever heard of a Supreme Court justice who's supposed to be on the court, to be impartial, to be that political? It was so nakedly political. And when he came up for his nomination hearings in 2006, there were a lot of concerns that he was a political operative, and he showed that in spades yesterday, that is what he is. And we do not need a political operative under this kind of cloud being on the United States Supreme Court.
You know, talking about coordination, what we saw yesterday was a coordinated effort to change the conversation away from the brave, courageous survivor of sexual assault, because her story was so intensely, undeniably credible, to a partisan attack. And what Judge Kavanaugh said yesterday was also a complete change from his saying initially at his first hearing, there's no Republican or Democratic side on the Supreme Court. Now it's a vast left-wing conspiracy out to get him. And that is demeaning and disrespectful to the brave survivors who have stepped forward. It makes them puppets and pawns when in fact they are blatantly and proudly independent and have come forth to tell their story voluntarily on their own initiative.
Can Democrats block a quorum to lose this vote? Is there something you can do to prevent the vote from going forward?
We're not
break
in the
that rule.
majority. We're not in the majority. We're clearly not in the majority.
In the committee, can you guys prevent a quorum from happening? Is there anything you can do?
We'll
You know,
see.
judging by the way they've handled the committee vote so far, the rules don't matter to
They'll
them.
break that right. Can we just take one more question, if that's okay with my colleagues?
What do you make of the way Republicans have said that Democrats were making Judge Kavanaugh out to have been like Bill Cosby in high school?
I don't even know what that means, really. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.